Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Deadline Day final hour special from The View, joined by the original cast and crew of Deadline Day, Alex Simon from the American and Leeds podcast, and Michael Maynard, Leeds Faithful, on Twitter. Guys, Alex, how are you first, mate? Quick check-in. How have you been?
Good, man. Good to be back. Hello to everybody in the chat. Good to see you. 10 out of 10 window, right? I mean, we're in. We've got we got everything we wanted. Now we'll see. I think we'll be more realistic. But yeah, doing well. I think the punchline is for me. We've got what we need. I think for promotion, right? I think the manager has got enough. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed we'll find it soon enough. Michael, welcome back, and how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, doing okay. Not quite as optimistic as Alex, but doing okay.
Good. We'll try and get through some of the chat as we go through. I'll throw some comments up every now and then. It looks, because of some tweets being on Instagram posts going out from Bakley Belushi, who is the agent of Isaac Schmidt, that he's very much in Ellen Road right now and is doing up the bits and pieces ahead of what will be and appears to be Leeds United's final signing of the summer 24 window, which will be Isaac Schmidt from St. Gallen. Scored last night on his farewell. Looked pretty decent at right back. Michael, did you see any of it?
Nice goal.
Lovely
well
goal.
Placed.
Top left for a right footer. So
yeah,
plenty of versatility with him. He can play pretty much, I think he's played everywhere on the park apart from the goal. So that looks like it'll be done. We'll go through the list of everyone we've signed as we go through it. But I wanted to kind of get a sense check just from today. We came into today, Alex, expecting, we knew Tanaka would get done possibly this morning. We could see that announcement. Then maybe Schmidt, and then maybe a surprise, maybe a cherry on top that looked like Chris Wilder's worst nightmare of Gus Hamer in a Leeds United shirt. And unfortunately, it looks like that one hasn't happened, but the other two look like they will get done for all intents and purposes. How do you feel about today, Alex?
I mean, I feel fairly positive about the window overall. I just you have to reflect and zoom out on everything that happened this window. I mean, Archie moving was not ideal. In all of the cases of the big three that left, Archie Gray, Somerville, Ruter, clause was triggered. So I don't think there was a plan. I think it was probably plan B that was been in place. Ruter was a must keep. They didn't keep him. And then they went these last 2 weeks with a plan B. And I thought it was okay. I would love to see Gus Hamer in the door. I absolutely think that the Perot player swap, or what I would call as a trade, was on. That's how 49ers have liked to operate. You can see that they like to do that. A positive is that they're doing some stuff with Spurs. My buddy that's a Spurs fan is saying somebody is actually willing to deal with what's the owner, Daniel, the owner's name at Tottenham. Daniel Levy. But look, I do think that this win, I'm going to go with an A for the window. I'm not going to go with an A plus, but a solid A. I just don't think that they were shopping the players that they lost. There was clauses in them. Their hands were tied. They were paying, as Daniel Farkas has said, sins of the past. So I'm going to be more of a 49ers Enterprises apologist on this stream, and I think you guys might differ. But I rate the window. I really do. We can go through the players that we got in, but I think it was solid. I think we have enough to get promoted.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the pressure goes on the manager now to deliver because he's had 3 windows. It's very much his team. Lee, Lee Bowyer, on the comment about the 25 million, completely fabricated story. Never happened. Leeds not bid 25 million pounds for any player. They won't give 15 to 18 million for Gus Hamer. They're not building 25 million for a Croatian midfielder. Didn't happen, unfortunately. So you can relax with that one. It only came out of a Croatian publication as well. Anyway, Michael, how are you feeling about today? Just as on its own, coming into what we looked like we were going to get versus what we'll come out with.
Yeah, I'm definitely not giving it an A. I think maybe your optimism, Alex, is pushing me up a little bit from where I was feeling about it. I think, I agree in the sense that I think we are still absolutely competitive and competitive at the top end. I think that this window could have been a lot better. If we had gone for a statement number 10, someone that is a real creator. I think that would have pushed us. Someone like a Hamer would have pushed us basically, I think, to guaranteeing ourselves top two. Right now, I basically see us as competitive in the top six, maybe anywhere between fourth and potentially first. But for me, that's a big risk. Our second year in the championship, we are still the biggest club in this league, and for me, if you're not pushing the boat out and saying this is the year we are absolutely going to get it done and we're taking no chances, then you're really not doing enough. That's my view of it. So I don't think we have done enough. Frankly, I'm happy with what we have done, but I do not think we've done enough. I think the fact that we've been out there talking about splashing money for a number 10 tells me that we didn't get everything that the manager wants, that we wanted a number 10 and we failed to do it so far, unless something happens in the next 49 minutes or whatever, which isn't going to happen, as I'm sure we all know. Then in my view, we haven't done enough. And to me, you just can't give an A if you haven't done enough. I used to teach at post-secondary, and oftentimes my students would come to me and say, well, where did I lose marks? And my answer is, well, where did you gain them? And in this case, we just haven't earned the marks to get an A as far as I'm concerned, because we're still missing that statement signing. One thing I will say about just briefly on the point of needing a creative 10, when we are looking at what sort of the change that we've made at left wing, going from Somerville to Ramazani, we're not going to get the goals that we got out of Somerville, but we will have more creation there, because I think Ramazani is going to be more of a creative player and perhaps change the way we play a little bit. So that might take the edge off the fact that we don't have a creative 10 and that we've lost a difference maker in Jorginho Rutter. So it's not, it's not horrible. It's not like we're completely without people who can create, but I do think we're missing that really key statement signing right now that would have put it beyond doubt. And for us, I'd rather be beyond doubt than sort of be in the competitive, because we were competitive last year and ultimately we didn't go up. So
Yeah, you're right. I do take your points with it as well. My question back to though, Michael, if Daniel Farke hadn't mentioned the number 10 this week, and bearing in mind his comments last week where we need 4 left back, centre mid, and two to replace the 2 attackers, and essentially by the end of today he'll have that 4. If you hadn't mentioned the 10 yesterday, do you think people would be a little bit more relaxed today, going, well, he got what he wanted, now it's over to you? Or has he maybe spoiled it himself by saying, I wanted a creative 10?
It's a good question. So for me personally, I've thought that we've needed a creative 10 for a long time anyway. And going into this, my view, without even thinking that we were going to lose Jorginho Rutter, was that maybe he should be pushed out to the right and we get a creative 10 anyway. So this has been something that I've wanted since last year, when it was very clear that we lacked that ability to have sort of a passing first 10 player.
Mary hanging around the place this time last year, didn't we? Like, that was the conversation last year, was Amiri was coming in at number 10 last year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been something that we've needed for a long time. Now, have the club made a rod for their own back in addition to that? Yeah, I think they have, because one, we're talking about getting a 10 or needing a 10. 2, we're clearly making bids, but I guess not realistic ones, or, whatever the case may be for someone in that position. So, again, I think when you're definitely making all the waves out there, making all the suggestions that, in fact, we do need to get someone in this position, and then you end up with no one. Have you made a rod for your own back then? Yeah, you probably have. But quite apart from that, I think it's what we need anyway.
The fact that we tried to get Amiri last year in a very, very similar situation, Alex, last minute of the window, or at least the last day of the window, player flies in, he's seen hanging around Leeds city centre, Leeds, then he decides, or his representatives decide to move the goalpost and ask for more money, and Leeds go, no, you're done, you can go. 12 months on, Brendan Aronson's come back in. he's done really well so far. He's 2 goals, he's 2 assists so far since he's come back in. So you can't complain with his output as in that position.
Yep.
But you do still have that thought. And again, because Daniel Farke said it, is that statement number 10 needed? Or is it possible that some of the signings we've made, who may not be known right now, end up becoming a statement signing later on the season after having a really good year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gus Hamer would have been, right, the cherry on the top. And not only that, why it was so great is that you're weakening your promotion rival. And yeah, it would have been just so sweet. But look, I also am rating it an A. We kept Nanto. Nanto might be that maybe a better 10 than operator than that we need. He I feel like he might hold the ball in key areas in the midfield more than Ruter because he's so tidy with it. But anyways, Nanto's still a Leeds United player. Vober is still a Leeds United player to my knowledge, which is we'll see. He had a very disappointing game against Borough, but we all think there's a player in there, and Aronson came back. So look, I mean, I just take everything. This is the second year in the championship. The parachute payments are in the hat. I'm also kind of saying A because I'm a realist here. I think 10 days ago, we were all looking at this being a championship, that, as they say on the square ball, the championship bastards. You know, the championship side of what would have been Aronson and Gelhardt and Joseph and James, right? So it's not going to be that bad. I think Solomon's going to be really good for us at this level. I think he's going to start. He's not going to be on the bench. You know, obviously we're hoping for health there. And yeah, I almost think the back line in a way could be better because Spence is right. He had a bad attitude and didn't work out, but it seems like the back four is pretty solidified. Vober's there in case of injury, and then we are hopefully going to close on a defender, I believe, tonight, right? In Schmidt.
Yeah, it looks like.
So, and then obviously we've got the break glass in case of emergency, Ampadu, who can put in a shift there, which is still not ideal, but I think reading the tea leaves, the gaffer does, you know, favor that move in case something happens to the center backs. So on paper, I think we've got more than enough, and I think the gaffer's got enough time with a lot of these players that we can go up. So if I'm the 49ers, I'm squarely looking at the manager and say, it's all you here. But yeah, we'd love the 10. I would have loved Gus Hamer, and I absolutely don't believe the reports. I believe Perot was offered. I believe it was that's what they do. And all this kind of stuff that Perot's not going to be, his feelings are hurt. I take that with a little bit of salt. I mean, it's professional sports, man. You know, things happen. They were offering him a possible opportunity to come to another promotion club, bang more goals in, and start. So I don't think I don't know if your feelings are hurt in that manner. I don't know. You're a professional athlete. I don't feel too worried about that, but that's how business is done a lot in America. That's how player movement gets done, is through trades.
Well, if you've got a player like Pirro who you don't feel after a year there fits the system and you're not going to sell him for the money you got him for, maybe you use him as part of a deal to get somebody else in that you do want. But it's a dangerous tactic in soccer anyway, or football, because you could disenfranchise a player completely to the point where he's like, well, I'm not wanted here. Feck it, I'll wait till January. I'll just dial it in until then. And then what do you do with the player, you know? So it's a dangerous tactic. And for me, if you are swapping players, especially player plus cash, you've got to get it done before it comes out. It's got to happen before the player becomes aware in the media that's happening. And just real quick before we go any further, we started the first drip in from Leeds, and there is the pre-announcement for Isaac Schmidt. I keep saying Isaac. I'm assuming it's Isaac because it's 2 A's, but it could be Isaac. It could very easily be Isaac Schmidt. But that's the first one that's gone up there now. So we should see that announcement that went up a few minutes ago. So that we should see the formal announcement of that. And I would hope the Leeds will follow that up by just saying, don't go, go to bed. Just go to bed. Just don't wait anymore. Everyone go to bed. Relax. So that went up 4 minutes ago. So we should see probably in the next 10 minutes. I'd say we'll get the full announcement. We'll see where we are. Nothing from Graham Smith or anybody else just yet. No early leaks from them. I'm sure they'll have all the information as soon as it's announced. Then we'll get this is the deal. This is what's happened. Stories will come out from them. Overall, as a window, Michael, seeing when we were the exits, there was there was a lot of exits. There was so many exits, in fact, that if you actually look at it here, it gets hard to believe for a while. But a lot of those players weren't here last year. But of the window we brought in, you start them off. You look at the blocks that came in. Block 1 was Cairns, Rockwell, Rodon, and Bogle. Then you've Ramazani and Solomon, followed by Tanaka and Schmidt. How do you feel about the entirety of the window, outside the fact that we probably left ourselves a little bit short? Have they done enough to put together a squad in your eyes that is enough to compete for top 2 spot in this league?
Yeah, I think we have. Just before I go to that, just to go back to what you were saying before, it's good that looks like Schmidt is actually happening. We were all pretty confident that it would anyway, and aside from announcing that and telling everyone to go to bed, I hope that Leeds United announces that and then tells everyone to tune into The View and then go to bed. But in terms of the window, come on, we're having a great conversation here. Everyone should join in. In terms of the window on the whole, I mean, I think they did as well as they can. There's not much we could do with the outgoings. They are what they are. Obviously, we got claused to death again. And I know some people were saying, well, you guys said there were no more clauses. I think they were talking about loan clauses, not release clauses or exit clauses. But, there wasn't much we could do about that. So we were always going to be in a place where we're going to have to replace our top players. If you don't go up first time of asking, that's reality. You just have to deal with it. I think the squad that we have now is well balanced, probably better balanced than the one we had before. And like I said a few minutes ago, I mean, I think we're definitely in a position where we're going to be able to compete in the top 6, probably the top 4, maybe even for the top 2. But certainly in terms of like the value, like the actual money value of our squad, we're top 2. We were top 2 last year though as well. So again, it doesn't always work out that way. But I do like the balance of the squad. I think I said before, Somerville was absolutely dynamite last year. But we relied on him so much that when it didn't work, nothing worked. And I feel like a lot of times, get it to Somerville and see what happens became the entire strategy. And that I think really didn't work out well for us. Having a more balanced squad with more options for attack in different ways than what we had last season will help a lot. So, just looking at right back, for example, hurts to lose Archie Gray because he's sort of one of the gems from the academy and someone that everyone looked at and hoped, here's a future player who could be with us for his whole career. And, it's all wonderful. And, it's never likely to be the case, but we all have, dreams about our academy products, especially when they're, from someone from a family like the Gray family. But when we really look at it, we've kind of changed the dynamic there. With Bogle, we have someone who is a better attacking fullback. Gray was certainly better defensively, so we sort of switched them around, a better attack for better defense in terms of our right back. But that gives us an outlet that we didn't have last year going forward. So again, just the whole idea of last season, it was always, try to get it to Rudder or get it to Somerville. And usually it ended up being get it to Somerville when all else failed. We now have another option on the other side of the park from there, right? In terms of attack, someone that can do something even on their own, but also, hold width, overlap, do all that other stuff that we need. Having Schmidt join as well in the back line gives us a different dynamic there as well if it's not working. Tanaka, again, I think a very, very good, very smart midfielder. We'll do some of the things that we had with Glenn Kamara, but we'll also do some different things and, add crucially, at least we hope, add some goals from midfield, which was something that we could have used. And that, that sort of thing, again, diversifying where our attack is coming from and balancing things out in attack instead of only having one or two options all the time, I think will help us out quite a lot. So on the whole, and despite the fact that at the start I was a little more negative, I think it is a good squad. It is a competitive squad. I do like the balance that we have in the squad now, and I agree with what Alex said completely. Daniel Farka, it's over to you at this point.
Yeah,
Alex, it's a really good
Go
point
ahead.
that he's made, Alex, on a couple of different levels, and your thoughts on this as well. We've gone from being maybe a team that was reliant on an individual moment of magic from either one of 2 or 3 players to being a team that's possibly likely to share the load a little bit more generously around the park and maybe change how we do things. And as Michael said, you bring in some more dynamic players as well. We could be seeing a whole different style of football.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And out of these 4, we really, I mean, I was thinking about it. Maybe I was listening to a lot of your content, Jir, but Tanaka just seems to be an exciting player. I don't know if we really have that profile. Japanese player. I mean, I was saying on one of my streams, he's they're, at least in American sports, they're very technically and mechanically good, like thorough in terms of their movements. So, and I just was pointing to you, Michael, because it's like exactly no goals from midfield, and if he can add to that and get a little forward, and if Farka can kind of take the governor off of the team, allow the midfielder like that to get forward. I just think look out. And it's really about gelling now. I mean, I do think there was a little bit of times, maybe because we were rebuilding the plane in mid-flight last season, that it was a little bit of pass to Ruter, pass to Somerville, make something happen. And Ruter, if you remember, at the end of last season looked like he was broken at times. He tried to pull a move off, and it was just something would happen, the ball would get lost, and it's just like a heavy touch, because he played so much football. He played so many minutes last year, and he probably played injured. But it's like, man, if Ruter's not going, if Somerville's not going, then where are we going to go with this ball? So if they can keep the front 4 fresh, and if the system, and that's really what we're going to be looking at now, we're going to be grading is the system. If that can go, then we can absolutely get HMS piss this league. Let's do it.
Back again.
Back again.
Yeah, I agree. And just a real quick on SideQuest. I love you, Jay. I watch you every day. Love your content and your work great. But saying the window was very good is poor. Well, unfortunately, that's just my opinion, pal. That's what I think of the window. And unfortunately, you're not me. So if you have a different opinion on the window, you are 100% and 1,000,000% entitled to that opinion. And I won't disagree with you on your opinion, because it's your opinion. And I'm basing mine based on what I've seen. I think from what Leeds have lost and what they've replaced them with, and there's now 2 players for every single position, maybe bar the 10. I think that's a far more balanced squad. I think if you look at the bench, Daniel Farke will be able to use 5 of a potential 9 on a bench, because he won't have a Jamie Shackleton, 2 goalkeepers, an 18-year-old Charlie Crew staring, and a Liam Cooper staring back at him, who he is not going to put on the park. So last year, the bench was essentially 4 players. They were the same 4 every time. He wouldn't use Creswell, he wouldn't use Cooper, he wouldn't use Shackleton, he wouldn't use Gelhardt, then he wouldn't use the 2 goalkeepers. Never came on, barely ever came on. This year, it's a much deeper bench. I could be completely wrong in my opinion. I think this is a decent group of players that they put together. I could be miles off. And so could you. You could also be miles off. But the only problem is with this is we won't find out until this season really gets moving and seeing where this team is. And I've said it, this is all just my opinion based purely on what we absolutely. Also, absolutely. Yeah. This is just my opinion based on what I'm seeing on paper right now. But that, you're never guaranteed. I mean, everyone's looking for a marquee signing, and Theus Click is the example. We signed him for 1.5 million and nobody knew who he was, and he ends up being one of the best players for Leeds in the last 5-6 years. You just don't know. You pay 25 million for Brendan Aronson, you end up loaning him out at the end of the season, and no one wants to see him back in the Leeds shirt. So you can go with the money if you want to. It doesn't necessarily equate to success. It has never, ever. You look at people like Spurs, and they sold Gareth Bale, and they spent the 100 million on Gareth Bale. They spent on 5 players, 5 big money signings. All of them left the club for free. All of them were a failure at the club. Every single one of them failed and moved on, left the club. So you're not guaranteed, even by spending big cash, that you're going to get it. This misnomer that Leeds have 140 million to spend, even Wilder said it, is not true. You divide that by 3, deduct all the other payments from it, and that's what you're left with. I think Leeds probably had about 9 million quid left to play around with to try and get a 10. I think that's what they tried to do with Hamer. because that's the feel they were trying to do with Freiburg for Salai, but they couldn't agree to payment structure with Salai. So there's a lot of stuff and noise out there, but ultimately everything in this window will be decided by what we see on the park in the next couple of weeks and months and up until Christmas. And it's only 16 weeks between now and the next transfer window anyway. So, counting down to another month of doom. But look, it is what it is. But I do think it's a more balanced looking squad. You've 2 right backs now. You've got Bogle. Actually, we'll put the players up and we'll have a quick chat about them as well. You've got Bogle. You've got Bayer. You've got Schmidt now. You've also got Bayern on the left, who has played predominantly the bulk of his career as a left back, especially under Farke. And you've got Firpo. You've got De Boyo, Rodon, Ampadu as a backup. You've got Vober, who has stayed. We'll talk about that again as well a bit later on. You in the midfield, you've now got Joe Rothwell, Tanaka, Gruev, Ampadu, 2 there. You go to the wings, Dan James, Brendan Aronson, Solomon. Then you've got, who else is in there? I'll find the picture because I'm trying to remember all the names today. Who else is in there? You get my point. Ramazani. Yeah, you get my point. You could essentially take off an entire front 4 and replace them with a completely new front 4 and not weaken that 4 really at all. I'll get this up real quick. So talk about this. This is the players that have come in so far. So going through it again, Bogle does the right back position, which we had Archie there last year, but he wasn't in the natural fullback. You get that. Schmidt gives him competition there. Joe Rotwell gives us another option in the centre of the park, an experienced player who's happy to come off the bench, experienced, has got promoted from this league twice. Alex Kearns ticks a box from a homegrown player, third choice keeper perspective. Joe Rodon needed to get done. Just very good player last year. Tanaka gives us a different profile of central midfielder who can break forward, can pass the ball like Kamara did, but also do an awful lot more moving forward. Solomon adds more depth to the wings, can play as a 10 as well, but it means you've not just got Dan James and Willie Nonto, you've got more options in there as well. And then you bring Ramazani onto that as well, and you've got more. I mean, you could take off James, Aronson, Nonto, bring on Solomon, Ramazani, another, maybe one, Rothwell maybe, or Tanaka, and then you've got a striker you can swap between Pirro and Joseph as well. So the 10 is the one. If you could have had a Hamer as that second option with Aronson and Hamer as your 2 10s, that's a cracking window. But looking at what's come in there, it's not a bad window, Michael. In terms of those types of players, they seem to be decent caliber of players who've come from decent leagues.
Jared, I think your point about the bench is a really important one. And when I was mentioning before this idea that we have more balance, that's definitely a huge part of it. I think when you're looking at the fact that the step down to the second 11 or whatever is a lot less than it was in previous years. So we know that Joel Pirro has not really worked out that well in terms of what we need, but then again, you also look at it and say, well, he does score goals. He does. So does he fit in? Yeah, he definitely fits in. There's a place for him to fit in. Aronson, I think is an interesting one because I don't know if we're 100% sure what we're going to get necessarily with him. So far, so good. And I think at this level, he should do really well. He certainly seems to be much more settled than he was previously. I think there are some question marks about his consistency. That's an issue for me, which is why I think the 10 element is something that was necessary. I think I'd rather have him available to sort of slot in at the wing or at 10 as needed and have that statement signing there. But I guess it's sort of all go with him in that position right now, and we'll see how he does. But essentially he's maybe taking over the Jorginho role right now. The thing, what I do like is what you were saying about the front 4. First of all, it's completely interchangeable, and a lot of the players that we have in the front 4 can play, like the wingers can play either side. They can also play through the middle. There is, again, I'm ready to ride, with Mateo Joseph as the lead striker and Bamford in backup. I think with Bamford, of course, we know that he's quality, but it's just the fitness and whether or not he can get up to speed and stay up to speed regularly. But so far, Joseph has done a great job. It is, again, without knowing for sure that you have a guaranteed sort of creative presence there, relying on a young, fairly inexperienced striker becomes a little bit more risky than it needs to be. But I am generally happy with it. I think again, we basically have two interchangeable teams of players that can fill in and do the job that's necessary in this league. And the league is, on the whole, I think probably weaker than it was last season. And this is Leeds, and our luck is what it is. But I'm touching wood that there's not another team that can pull an Ipswich this season, because that was just extraordinary. Like what happened last season was just extraordinary. Any other season would have gone up. So as long as that doesn't happen again, we should be pretty competitive.
You hope. We do have official announcement. I don't know if the audio will play on this, but we do have the announcement that Schmidt is officially a Leeds United.
Yeah, no audio coming through, but it's good to have that official now. So, I mean, there's no doubt it was going to happen, but it's always good to have it official. We don't want to get done like we did with Dan James.
Jared, who's the player you're most excited about?
I'm really excited about Tanaka, because I just, my big issue with Leeds last season, and part of already this season, has been there are times in the game where the tempo drops or we step back a little bit, usually after we score. And I don't always think we've got the ability to kick back up into a higher gear to get going again. I think what I said about last season was when we move the ball quickly, we're a phenomenal side and very dangerous to play against. But when we slow the game down, we're nearly our own worst enemy. We nearly create opportunities for oppositions to counterattack, break through lines and catch us static. So someone like Tanaka, and Rotwell does it to a degree as well, but Tanaka's an awful lot more of a scanner. He watches what goes on left and right. He's constantly looking for space, but he will get the ball, move it quickly. He will try and link play. He will try and fill the gaps between the lines as well and be very, very mobile. He's not the world's fastest player, but he's very quick over short amount of distances. Like he can go into a group of 3 or 4 players. He's got very good close control and he can break out of there with some tempo. And that for me is a massive thing. 1 or 2 of those moments where he just decides, right, I could pass it left or right, but I'm not going to break into that space instead. That lifts everybody else around him and gets them moving. So for me, we've been lacking a tempo changer for a while. I think he could do it based on what he's done in the Bundesliga too. And Ben Locke watches an awful lot of Bundesliga too for what he does as an analyst. And he has said that he is so excited about this player. And from what I've seen of Tanaka, I really like what he does. I mean, the man was man of the match against Spain in the World Cup, So there's some caliber of player there, so that Spain team went on to the European Champions. So, there's caliber there. So the question would be, can they replicate that in the English game? Can they get used to the Championship pretty quick? The benefit for me is not just Tanaka, but the rest of them coming in are all coming in from being first team players in their squads. So they're not coming in having like Kamara last year where he didn't get a preseason and was isolated from a squad. These boys are all coming in having played league matches this season and are ready to go. And I think that's a hugely important thing for what Leeds need right now. The next part will be, how long will it take Daniel Farke to trust them, to put them in? That's going to be the big piece for me. But I like looking at him. I think if Solomon can stay fit, I think he could be incredibly exciting. But I'll ask you the same question, Alex. Who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, probably that Tanaka. He's just a profile that we don't have. Solomon as well. I mean, like, I hate not stealing your answers, but Ramazani is more of a project to me after looking at Lockheed and Leeds lately, their channels, their evaluations of them. So I think he has potential. He's actually older than Somerville by a few months. He's 23. Somerville's 22. The interesting thing happening on Twitter, which is like, or X, is I can't really make an argument that the 49ers are better championship owners than Raz was. Raz got us promoted. He recruited Marcelo Bielsa, a god, to come in here, and they got promoted. But my belief, my core and my gut is the 49ers will be better Premier League owners than what Raz was, right? The end of Raz was kind of tragic. I mean, he was, remember the deadline date deal we did, and he was on the wine and he was tweeting content creators. And
we were here. We were doing the stream that night. That was the Cody Gakpo, Bamba Dieng, Willie Nanto. That was
Right.
the first one that we did. The first deadline.
It was sad. It started to become sad, and he obviously became at that point where I was under the realization. Dan James was at Fulham, and he was on hold, and things. It was just so. I just said that he does not have the resources to compete in the Premier League, right? With like these, you have oil states, right? That's the kind of level. And you don't have to be that wealthy, but you have to be another level of billionaire. And so when people kind of get stuck in on the 49ers, specifically 10 days ago, when there was a little bit of a 49ers out movement after the loss of Ruter, I can't make the argument right now that 49ers are better championship owners because they haven't gotten their hands on the EFL trophy. I believe that they will, hopefully this season. It's really got to be this season, in my opinion. But I believe when we get promoted, I'll say when, with a little touch of wood, they will be better Premier League owners than Raz was. So, yeah.
You hope, and the fact that there is that restrictions, we can't spend the money that we have in the Championship, but we can. The purse strings are a lot looser in the Premier League, and statements have been made about, backing Daniel Farke properly with a war chest in the Premier League that he didn't have before, when he was with Norwich. Now, if the strategy every window is going to be wait till the last week of the window, I don't think that's going to wash too well with most people, but we'll wait and see. But they have called it a strategy. It should be said that I was just highlighting it there. I'll throw it up again in the article around the player. He's signed a 4-year deal, Leeds until 2028. As per usual, they haven't disclosed the fee, but it's believed to be rising to £4.6 million if Leeds get promoted to the Premier League. There's add-ons in there, and there is a rumoured sell-on clause. But the club do say the club's second signing a transfer deadline day and the 8th overall throughout the summer has his arrival concludes the incomings and outgoings at Elland Road. So we're done in terms of players coming in. Players going out is worth talking about as well, Michael. And there was two specifically at the start of this window and probably last two windows as well. But the question marks around where their futures. There's a lot of noise about Willie Nanto since the second the season finished. And Max Verber's started as soon as he was about to come back to the club or about to head off to the Euros. Both players have stayed now. So they're at least committing till the January window.
Yep.
If they get their heads sorted and if they can sort out, because Verber didn't look bought into me, but if they could buy in, which Willie has done, they're two big players to keep as well in that squad, again, making that squad stronger. And then again, the addition of Brendan Aronson returning from last year that wasn't here last year.
Yeah, certainly. So on Willie Nanto, I think it was really important that we kept him, because if we got rid of him as well as all the other ones that we got rid of, I think we may have had riots on our hands. So it's good that we were able to keep him, and he does look like he's bought into what we're doing. I know there's lots of speculation and maybe he was looking for a way out again, but I mean, it doesn't seem to impact his play on the field. Like he still leaves it all out there, I think. And so I think it was very, very important that we kept him. In terms of Max Verber, I really don't know what to say. I mean, he came here, with first team experience, expecting to come right into our first team and make a difference. He had some good games. He had some not good games, and it seems like he's really fallen off a cliff. I don't know what's going on with that or why that's the case. He certainly hasn't impressed so far this season. We limited, but so I don't know. I mean, he's a backup at least, and you would hope that at this level he's a solid enough backup. but I wouldn't expect him to get ahead of Strauch or anything. And now that we have more options at fullback, he's not getting in at left back either. I don't know how happy he's going to be about that. If someone wants to come and get him, just put down a reasonable amount of money and in January, and I'm okay with that as long as we can have someone to replace him with. So I don't think much really hinges on that aside from having him as a squad option. Aronson is again one that I think a lot's going to hinge on that one. For me, I think he's a dynamic player. I am completely bought into the Aronson redemption arc. I hope it happens. Why wouldn't I? Because it's good for my team. But I also like him. I like him as a player. I just think that it was a little too soon for him with the Premier League. I don't feel like he was physically quite up to it. I feel like maybe he was led to believe that he could do better than he actually could. So more development was necessary. I think that may have happened or is happening, and this would be a good run for him, I think, in the championship to continue on that. I do think there's a player there, and I would love to see that player emerge this season. I don't think he's necessarily the creative 10 that we need. He's more of a get the ball and run with it, direct kind of attacking guy rather than look for a creative pass. But he's shown that he can be creative sometimes. Like, it does happen. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him play and giving him a shot. And I hope that he's able to sort of prove the doubters wrong and fully redeem himself in the eyes of Leeds United fans.
Takes a couple of performances. We know that a couple of decent performances.
Yeah,
everyone can change their opinions very quickly. It's all about just as long as you put it in when you wear that shirt. Leeds fans can't stomach anybody who dials it in more than anything else. We'd rather you left the club than gave us subpar performances. But Alex, on those two specifically, and then Brendan as well, having a focused Willie Gnonto who could take on the mantle of his best mate who's moved on could be a huge incentive for him and driver for him. And then Max Ferber's going to have to sort out his game if he wants to be in a World Cup in 2 years' time and be a Premier League centre-back or get a move at some point. So he needs to sort that out. And then Brendan Aronson's done everything he's pretty much has to do so far. Head down, keep your mouth quiet, get on with the job, do your job, and then the fans will come on side. And we've seen what's happened with that. But could be three important players to add to that squad.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I were to buy stock in Willie Gnonto and Crescencio Somerville, I would probably buy more stock, and because he's at a lower price in Willie Gnonto. I think there is more there. He usually asks more questions. Well, Somerville his coming out party was last year. There's one thing that Somerville has that I don't know if Willie's got yet, is he wants the shot at the end of the game. He's like that Michael Jordan player. Like, Cree's got something in him that he wants that drama. And you saw that at the Liverpool match. You kind of saw that throughout the course of last year. He wants the ball in his feet when it's tight. I think Gnonto's got a little bit of that, but look, he was a full-fledged international, Italian international. Cree has yet to be that. He probably will. I think there's a clause in there if we do get him to be a Dutch international. And I just think he's more versatile along the front line. As far as Aronson goes, absolutely. Let's keep the redemption arc going. He is an American international. I think he's gonna continue to grow in this league. He's not going down as much, which is fantastic. And you have to kind of count Aronson and Vober as, I know I'm reaching. This could be a reach, but they're in a way incomings because they weren't part of this squad last year. And then the last thing is Vober was one before all the the transfer clause, the loan clauses came out. Vober was a player that we wanted to keep, and everybody was kind of shouting for him to stay at the club. So he's got some work to do, certainly with the fans. He's got to put in better shifts than he did against Borough. But yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the exciting players that have come in the wide areas, the ones that are the Georgie and Cree replacements, I suppose. Michael, Solomon and Ramazani coming in. Solomon comes in with a bag of experience in terms of high level football and has experience of the British game. So he's likely to be the player that replaces Dan James on Saturday and could very much make his debut tomorrow for Leeds. And then you have Ramazani, who has experience in England, but has come to the U ranks in England and helps us with a homegrown player as well. So box checked.
Yep.
But might not feature from the start tomorrow. But still on paper, and I keep saying on paper, but on paper still looks like a very exciting signing. And also should be said that Tanaka is available to play tomorrow. They did get that registration done. So what are your thoughts on two white players?
Well, first of all, I think you can be forgiven for saying on paper because we haven't seen these guys play together yet. So until we do, it is on paper. I think there's some question marks about Solomon with his fitness. His knees have been problems, but the club was very clear when he signed that, and he was very clear when he signed that he's fit and raring to go. So hopefully, that's the case. We definitely need players of that caliber, playing at this level. So I think that's great. Ramazani, I'm not sure. I think I agree with Alex somewhat that there's a bit of a project element to that. We're not totally sure, where that's going to go, but he's an exciting, dynamic player. He's primed to have that kind of a season like what Somerville had last season. I think not that they're in any way the same player. Again, I think Somerville had more goals in him. I think Ramazani's more creative. So they're definitely different, but I think they're both sort of a similar trajectory that I think Ramazani might light it up this season, to be quite honest. So I am excited about that for sure. And I think it gives us, again, balance because they're different than what we've had. And again, certainly a high ceiling potential. And as you said, like with Solomon, it's obviously got a lot of experience. Now, Dan James is going to be out this weekend with injury, right? With a hamstring problem. So
Farkas' language is weird on that. He said we might have him back after the international break, which suggests it might be slightly longer, but I'm also thinking it's an international friendly break. So maybe he's just protecting him.
Yeah, so that tells me we're going to see probably a new signing on the pitch tomorrow.
At least one. We'll have at least one starting.
Yeah,
unless he decides to do the one thing that no one wants him to do, and that's play Pirro as a 10 and put Brendan on the right. Please stop. Please stop. It's not an experiment anymore. The results came in. We know where we are. Alex,
by the time we're making substitutions,
Solomon. Sorry, Michael, go
on. Sorry, I said by the time he's making substitutions, then we'll have some new players out there.
Yeah, by the time the game finishes, between the 77th and 90th minute, we'll definitely see a couple of cameos. Yeah, no problem there at all.
Exactly, yeah.
Alex, how do you feel about the guys that have come in, Ramazani and Solomon? We've got a Champions League player coming into the squad.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. And I've never done a backflip, so he's got that in his locker. No, I just think Solomon will be. If he's healthy, he'll absolutely be incredible in this league. I think he's smart. When I looked at the tape on him, he looked like a very smart player. He's not too risky. He's very technical, but he can easily go around players if he needs to. I think he's got a good cross on him. I think he puts the ball in the box pretty well. And, obviously everybody points to the goal that he scored against Leeds United. I look at that goal and it's like, it's a worldie. It's a worldie, but two, man, that team was broken because you just saw the defense.
It was, I watched it.
Weston McKinney does this half-hearted, it's just that team was just so broken at that point. But,
was that the one where Rocca bailed out of the 50-50 as well?
Yeah. They were in the black and orange here that night.
And everybody just, the defense. Everybody just goes.
They just watch it happen. Yeah.
But he wanted to stay in England, right? I think this guy could have gone to other places in Europe, but he wanted to stay in England. I think he's going to smash it with us, rehab his career, and I think he's got a lot on the line too. So, as far as Ramazani goes, he's what we would call in baseball toolsy. Like he's got the tools, right, Michael? Yeah. He's got the speed, he's got the power, he's got the quickness.
Yeah.
He's got stuff that you can't coach. right, Jir? I mean, you know this. It's just a matter of drawing players. Now, how would you, Jir, how would you coach a player like this when players that are really kind of got all the attributes but haven't put it all together? What are methods that you kind of get out of them?
The trick is to see them is to see that they have a bigger part to play in the entire team because they've got an opportunity to do more. So, but you don't want them necessarily to do more. You want them to be able to gel in with the rest of the team, do the basics that everyone else does, set your standards, and then have those moments of flair. Like I've had some very skillful players. There's a guy that I had at OMP in Navan called Paulie Cunningham, who's probably one of the most naturally gifted young footballers. But Paulie wanted to do his thing. He was very, very good at his thing. He was very, very good in it. But if you could have got him to do the team stuff a bit more, you had a player who could have gone levels above where he played. But it's hard to get really good players to see the benefit of working with everybody else and being part of the entire team, because they do see it as, well, just give it to me and I'll put the ball in the back of the net and we're done, you know. So it's to try and get them to see the bigger part of it. You do things in training like, you know, younger players like this as well, who if they just won't pass the ball, you're like, right, tell you what, this team's in yellow, this team's in orange, you're in white. You can be involved with whoever has the ball, but you can't shoot. But you're not able to score. So basically they become the assist maker for everybody else in the team in both sides. And they have to transition back and forward up and down the pitch because they're changing with both teams and they want to be involved. So there's lots of little things that you can do, but just getting the buy-in to the project and the bigger picture and realize that like there's things you do. And another thing that I used to always say to players was play the percentages. If you've got an opportunity for a tap in, take the tap in. Take it every single day of the week, take the tap in. It doesn't matter who scores as long as we score. And that's it's selflessness you're trying to drive into them and the selfishness out of them and go, it's not necessarily about you. You could do all the brilliant work in the world, beat all the players, and then go for a shot from a really difficult angle when you could square for somebody else to tap it in. Chalk up the assists. You'll look great at the end of the season, you know. So it's getting the buy into that and just see it. But I think at this level, the players you're looking at there, you're just looking at them to be able to gel into the system and fit the system and play the way he wants to play and understand the passing patterns. And it's a bit more straightforward. But I think of those two, Solomon on paper looks like he would be the better of the two, but I agree with Michael. I think Ramazani might be the one that actually lights it all up a little bit, because I think he will bring a little bit of flair. We've got players coming in here who've scored against Real Madrid. We've got players that played in Bernabeu. We've got players that have played in the Champions League who have won titles in the Ukraine. We've got players who have been successful in Switzerland. You've got players that have got promoted out of this league. You've got players that have played in the Premier League coming in, but it's an underwhelming window. And it's like, look at the CVs of some of the players that are coming in here. Yeah. There is obviously, again, as I say, the caveat of the injury stuff, but that's the only reason why you get that player in the first place. If you can be the team that can hold on to that for a year, no one else is living with you with that kind of a player, you know? And then especially the options we have to change up the game when we need to. We are missing the individual flair. I'm this window loses marks because of Georgie for me. Like the amount of times I scream at the television, Jesus, pass the ball, Georgie. You know, I do it because his name is said a lot in the house, but at the same time, he brought a lot of joy to watching Leeds play. There were moments where you're like, oh, it's so much, you know, destroying players, step out. I even watched him playing for Brighton the other night and against Manchester United when he came on, and he was excellent for a little cameo that he had. And, you know, still wants him to do well because he's still an exciting player to watch. When he gets the ball, you know, he's thinking about doing something. Yeah. And we don't have that now that we know of. But again, in 6 weeks' time, we could be turning around going, Ramazan, he's just a joy to watch and he's destroying fullbacks, you know. So I think
like that might be the case. Yeah,
I'm hoping that's the case. All right. I think people might feel a lot different at the end of September. Once we've got a couple of games to see, well, okay. But if we got a good result tomorrow, I think everyone will be a lot calmer about everything. Take international break and come back when these guys are all settled in then and see what Leeds looks like. But this is a very different looking Leeds United side than it was this time last year. And a lot of the dead weight and issues are gone as well that were there last year. So, Michael, as an entirety of a window and where the squad is at right now, do you think Leeds United are in a position to be promoted?
Yeah, I think we're definitely in a position to compete for promotion. You know, I'm going to hold a little bit back and say I'm not certain that it will happen. But you know, as I said, I'm pleased overall with the shape of the squad. I think there's definitely enough there for us to compete towards the top. And you know, if heaven forbid we end up in another playoff situation, which is, never something that Leeds United fans want, and never something that seems to work in our favor. Another element that we have in terms of the squad balance and makeup is that there are a lot more mature players now. And even the younger ones that we have that extra year of experience now as well. So I think having that maturity, that was another thing that Daniel Farke talked about last season, was wanting to have some more mature heads in the team. And I think we do have that now. That's an important element to it. So I'm happy with that aspect too. Just in terms of what you were saying before, Jer, about maybe some of the players like Ramazani that maybe don't have that same level of experience, and how do you sort of bring them on and help them develop, even with Aaronson's development. I think having more players around that can provide options means that they'll probably feel less pressure to hero ball. Again, last year we had a couple of players that always had to do it all because they didn't always have the options to do it. And so many times we were yelling
Well, it was given to someone with LFC for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. So I think when players see that there are other people around that they can rely on and that they don't have to do it themselves, then they'll just naturally integrate a little bit better together as a team and do that gelling that you're talking about, right? Gel together. So I'm hopeful that that's the case, and that not only will it be a situation where players like Aaronson and Ramazani can sort of grow into it and really begin to shine, but that they can really contribute as well as part of a team and be some of those sort of potentially here and there differential players that we really need. And if they are able to step up and do that, then the lack of a 10 that I've been bemoaning probably too much throughout the podcast so far, may diminish to the point where it doesn't matter that much. And that's kind of what I have to hold on to in terms of a hope for this season, is that we can get enough in other areas that it doesn't ultimately make the big difference, or a big enough difference that we miss out again this season. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to get promoted. Of course, I think that we should have enough to compete at the top. I think there was a way again that we could have made it much closer to being a slam dunk. And so I do have to say I'm a little disappointed that we didn't or couldn't do that. But on the whole, I am feeling pretty good about it. And, we've been looking okay. And I think with the players that we have, once everyone gets bedded in and starts to gel, I think we're ready to cook.
Fingers crossed. Alex, what are your thoughts on it now? Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go. The back line is better. I think the back line is going to be better. I think we're going to be conceding less. And I trust him to figure out the top four, the front four. And hopefully we'll get some goals from midfield with Tanaka. But yeah, I think, with the emergence of Joseph, you'd like to see a little bit more depth at striker. I think that was probably actually an area where I'm just a little bit dooming over right now. But, it is his system, right? He's going to manage games out. He's not going to he's not like Bielsa where he's going to cut your throat out, go for 3-4, 5-0. Where it gets, I'm with you, Gier, where it gets concerning, we start to pace maybe in our room or wherever we're watching the match, and it's 1-0 and we've taken our foot off the gas and we're not continuing to get that second goal. That's where it kind of goes, you want the players to kind of still be switched on even though we're up a goal, and not kind of have the like you always say, possession with purpose. We kind of lose that possession with purpose at times. So hopefully we can fix that. Hopefully we can with more clean sheets than we had even last year, and we get promoted. We go for the championship of the champions of the championship, and we go back to the Premier League. It's a lot is riding on this season. I mean, we all know it, but I think it just every match will be in a way a cup final. And look, that Sheffield Wednesday game was their cup final, right? That's the one time Leeds United are going to go into their ground. That was a big match for them. We took it quite easily. 2-0.
Second gear.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much. 3 points. Toodles. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we come out against Hull. Just don't play Perot in the 10. Thank you very much.
It's where he's going to
Nobody
play.
needs to be rewarded. Nobody needs to try anything stupid anymore. We've seen the results. We know how the movie ends.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to be in there. Willie was very good when he was in there the other night, as was Aronson when they swapped over quite a lot. And I'm very happy with that.
Move quicker.
Yeah, there's good options in there. But look, as we say before we wrap it up, the window for 2024 summer window is now officially closed. I'm relieved because it's a daily pain in the backside. So it's done and it's over now. We will still have Leeds United Daily Leeds News for those who are new to the channel, which is quite a serious number of people who popped in the last 2 months. But we will continue to do Leeds News going forward. We'll have the fallout from this window into next week as well. While the internationals are on, we'll have all of the interviews that we're likely to get from players that will go on international duty in a bit more detail that we don't normally get when they're in the club. So all that's ahead for next week. I'm okay with this window. We'll see how it pans out on the park. Hull City tomorrow, and then Daniel Farke, it is over to you to see if you can take this Leeds United team back to the Premier League where this club belongs, and we can move into an era of stability and promise, and hopefully a bit more positivity around the place for the next couple of months. But the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and the eating starts tomorrow, and we'll see where we land. Michael,
just 12 more weeks until the Ryan Kent rumors start.
Let's go. Ryan Kent leads confirmed. Let's get it going. Alex, anything you want to let us know what's going on your channel over the next week or so?
No, I love talking Leeds. I'm at American at Leeds on my Twitter and YouTube, and I do Spotify as well. And so good to chat with you guys both. Yep.
I've loved having you back on, Alex. It's like old times. This is great. Michael, where can people find you to get your take on Leeds United?
Yeah, you can get me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Maynard M. And that's pretty much it. Or sometimes, with you guys. So thanks very much for having me along. Just want to point out that at Leeds, when they announced Schmidt, they announced it as Schmidt happens. And I just hope our lack of a 10 doesn't leave us up Schmidt's Creek.
Oh, I love that. And that we will leave it there, folks. Massive thanks, as always, for supporting the channel and watching us tonight. The transfer window is over. Park your ITKs and let's start talking about football from tomorrow on. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend. Talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.
Let's roll.